It's been said that you play baseball, play football, or play basketball. You don't play fighting. To put yourself on the line against an opponent trained to defeat you is not something for the weak-minded. Because while mastering all combat sports disciplines is necessary to compete, to succeed, a fighter must have the heart and determination to walk through fire in search of victory. Tonight, the journey begins. Far from the bright lights of Las Vegas or New York City. But as the saying goes, when the octagon door shuts, a fight's a fight.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and we're always looking for up-and-coming talent to sign. Back in the day, I used to scout the world looking for new talent, but I haven't done that in years. I'm looking for the next Ronda Rousey, the next Robbie Lawler, the next Conor McGregor. I'm looking for future champions, and I'm willing to go to any show, anywhere in the world to find them. Super excited about the talent on tonight's card. A lot of tough fighters. Let's see who really wants their shot at the UFC. An impressive win against a tough opponent. I'm in. We're going to give him a shot in the UFC.
Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and this is your UFC Minute. The UFC returns this weekend with a fresh face who is destined to make headlines. When UFC President Dana White went looking for a fight, he was hoping that he would end up with a future UFC star. And those are the expectations after he signed a regional champion who has dominated the local middleweight circuit en route to his Octagon debut this weekend. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. I'm Megan O'Leary, and this is your UFC Minute. As a fighter's wins begin to add up, the pressure to maintain momentum becomes a major factor. Every fighter who competes in the Octagon will tell you that he will take a win by any means possible. But as one of the UFC's top strikers, this middleweight star is taking the judges out of the equation, as he has used fists and feet to finish each of his opponents during his winning streak by way of spectacular knockout. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights.
To become a legend in the UFC, a fighter needs someone to push him to be great. McGregor had Diaz, Jones had Cormier, and Silva had Sonnen. Each series didn't just pit the best against the best, but it matched up rivals that had personal scores to settle. And when the Octagon door shut, the bad blood reached a boiling point. Who will be the one to step up and put this feud to rest? Or give up bragging rights once and for all?
Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know for your UFC Minute. It came as a shock to the MMA community when this fighter left his longtime gym recently. But that surprise was nothing compared to the reaction felt around the globe when he agreed to fight his longtime training partner in a compelling matchup that highlights this weekend's UFC card at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. I'm Megan O'Leary, and this is your UFC Minute. This weekend, we brace for a crucial matchup, which is expected to shake up an entire division. To get into position for a world title shot, this fighter has fought tooth and nail against the best the middleweight division has to offer. And while getting into a number one contenders match is sweet enough, if this fighter beats his heated rival to earn that shot at the belt, the victory would be even more satisfying. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. I'm Megan O'Leary, and this is your UFC Minute. We've seen some of the top fighters in the world go from relatively unknown to some of the biggest names in the sport. There's a big difference between being a successful fighter in the UFC and being a star. But this fighter has clearly found the formula to be both, as several impressive wins in the octagon have seen him make his way up the middleweight ladder and capture the imagination of fans eager to see him perform on the sport's biggest stage. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know for your UFC Minute. Throughout the history of the UFC, it's no secret that having a strong wrestling game has been a key to success for several world champions and Hall of Famers. This middleweight fighter seems to agree, as he announced this week that he was making the move to a new camp, where the focus is on embracing the grind and getting down to business in the wrestling room on a daily basis. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know in your UFC Minute. This weekend, we have a stacked card with tons of solid fights, with a main event you won't want to miss. When this fighter first began competing, the goal was always the same for the talented mixed martial artist: to win a world championship. This weekend, live from the Honda Center in Anaheim, California, the star gets his long-awaited crack at the UFC middleweight crown, in a fight that has fans around the world buzzing. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and it's time for your UFC Minute. The MMA world is buzzing about that incredible performance this past weekend in the main event. Last weekend at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California, it was a night to remember for the mixed martial artist whose story has captured the imagination of fans around the globe, as he fought the fight of his life when it mattered the most. When the dust settled, Bruce Buffer said, "and knew." And he was crowned UFC middleweight champion of the world thanks to a memorable referee stoppage. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know for your UFC Minute. If there was a hole in the fight game of this rising middleweight star, it was clearly in his stand-up attack. But this week, he announced that he was leaving his longtime team in order to join up with a new team that guarantees an intriguing new look that will result in plenty of knockout victories. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know for your UFC Minute. When the UFC middleweight champion won his belt, no one knew what to expect from the fighter with the exciting style and unyielding confidence. Yet since that memorable title-winning night, he has successfully defended the belt multiple times, and he shows no signs of slowing down as his next title defense approaches. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights.
Some paths must eventually cross. And as two of the greatest fighters in the UFC kept dominating their opposition, it was inevitable that this moment would come. When the octagon door closes for tonight's super fight, the talk will be over, and the entire sports world will come to a halt. This is no ordinary fight. It's a battle between two champions, willing to put their own divisional crowns on the line to prove themselves worthy to be on top. And when the dust settles, there can only be one winner, a king with two crowns.
I'm Megan O'Leary, and this is your UFC Minute. Remember when we were telling you that you shouldn't miss this past weekend's monumental super fight? I hate to be that person, but we told you so. The fans were buzzing, the world was watching, and the Honda Center in Anaheim, California was at capacity last weekend when the UFC middleweight champion challenged the light heavyweight title holder in an epic super fight. When it was over, he had silenced the critics and made history as one of only a handful of fighters to become a world champion in 2 weight classes. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know for your UFC Minute. In every combat sport, it's a well-known fact that it's harder to defend a title than to win it. So when the UFC light heavyweight champion set the record for the most title defenses, it marked this longtime champion as not only the most dominant title holder ever seen in the octagon, but as a legitimate and likely Hall of Fame candidate. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. I'm Megan O'Leary, and this is your UFC Minute. As a fighter's wins begin to add up, the pressure to maintain momentum becomes a major factor. To win in the UFC isn't easy. To do it as many times in a row as this light heavyweight standout has is a remarkable feat that has this fighter on the verge of even more big things in the world-renowned octagon, as he prepares for his latest battle in mixed martial arts' ultimate proving ground. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know for your UFC Minute. To reach the masses in this day and age, it's not enough just to win fights. Today, a UFC competitor has to put on dominant and exciting performances, and that's just what this charismatic rising star has been doing. As a result, this fighter has been piling up followers on social media, with each victory adding more and more fans to his bandwagon. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know for your UFC Minute. In mixed martial arts, if you're not evolving, you're losing. So, in an effort to make sure he continues on the right path to the top of the light heavyweight division, this fighter announced this week that in order to keep building his skill set, he was packing his bags and leaving the gym where he got his start. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights. Hey everyone, I'm Megan O'Leary, and here's what you need to know for your UFC Minute. The list of accolades is a long one for this mixed martial artist, a light heavyweight, and a light heavyweight champion whose record is unmatched in the history of the fight game. And while this legend is retiring from the sport today, his legacy as the greatest of all time will keep him in the hearts and minds of UFC fans forever. That's it for today. Stay tuned for your next UFC Minute, and I'll see you at the fights.
Winning a championship in the UFC was a dream come true for this fighter. Defending it became an obsession. It was clear that we were witnessing something special in the octagon. But what is even more notable is that this champion has done the extraordinary. As he leaves the sport with the title belt still fastened securely around his waist and at the top of the game, undisputed forever.